Do you want a cold open? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yes?
Oh, no? Okay.
Oh, well, now we have. Hello, yes. Welcome back to the Lil RES podcast, also known as the Reclining Express Seating podcast. This is
Very
episode,
nice.
for us, it's episode 3. For you, it's episode 1. It is August 30th, and it is partially cloudy. It's been cooling down. It was so hot, and now it's not so hot. Actually, for my morning walk today, I was like, it's a little too cold. It's a little too cold to be wearing a t-shirt. It's like 70 degrees, but I was like, a little too cold. Here's the gnocchi of the day, wherever it is on screen. Richard, did you see the gnocchi of the day?
Oh, beautiful. And gotta love the, you should tell the viewers what that little rug hanging on your wall is in the background.
Oh, yeah. So in the background, there's my IKEA receipt rug. IKEA did a collaboration with Virgil Abloh, the creator of Off-White, rest in peace. And one of their carpets they did was a giant IKEA receipt. And I saw that thing and I needed it. So I drove down to IKEA the day it dropped so I could get that rug. That's the gnocchi of the day. Here's the hat of the day. It is the I Wish I Could Wear Hats hat, featured in the Brian David Gilbert video of the same name, purchasable on Brian David Gilbert's store if it's not sold out. Pretty good hat for those who wish they could wear hats. What's next on the agenda item, Rich?
Well, it says I should ask you how you're doing, but before we jump into that, I think we should tell the viewers what the podcast is actually about.
Okay.
Before we jump in.
All right. Let me explain this to those who are listening and watching. This is not our first take. This is not our second take. This is the third take. And we're not doing them back to back. They've been spaced out each week, but we keep having technical difficulties. This is the Lil RES podcast. The podcast is, I don't know what it's about. It's about me. It's about me, selfishly. But Richard's here. Richard's my good friend and co-producer and co-host of the show. He is here to make sure that I don't have to talk the entire time. I have somebody to talk to, and he can look at the little bells and whistles that I don't have the attention for while the thing's going on. And really, I just wanted an opportunity to have to be able to touch base with the viewers a little bit more. I'm getting meta here. I don't like that I've already done this spiel. All right, but to get back, I'll do it. For me, it feels like I don't really know who my audience is. It feels kind of empty. And I've had people reach out, and I think that's great. My favorite interaction is when you say something nice to me, I say thank you, and then you never say anything to me ever again. Not because I don't like you, but because it's such a low, easy commitment, and it makes me feel good. I've had people reach out, and I think that's awesome. But in general, the fraction of people who say hi is so tiny compared to the number of people who actually watch when I make. So I'm hoping that this can be an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about me and for me to learn a little bit more about the viewers in a parasocial way that is healthy. Yeah, did I cover everything?
Yeah, I iterate a little bit more on parasocial healthy, just in case there are any viewers out there who are confused about what that means. Sure. I know you said it before, but it was in an earlier take.
Yes, that is fair. Listen, this is an inherently parasocial situation. I think anybody who's been on the internet for the past few years understands the whole parasocial thing. I think that it's possible to have a parasocial situation with the viewers that is not unreasonable and that does not cross boundaries. Because at the end of the day, I'm a human trying to connect with other humans, and humans or people who watch what I put out are also humans trying to connect with other humans. The problem, right, is when there's a huge imbalance, when people think there's too much connection in either direction. But listen, if you're watching this or listening to this, you're agreeing to the social contract that we're not going to cross those boundaries, and I trust you, and I guess you don't need to trust me I don't know I don't know how the trust works out here, but it's okay to care about how I'm doing as long as you understand the parameters around that. And I think it's okay for me to be curious about the viewers as long as I'm not trying to become friends with the viewers or anything. Not that I don't like you guys, I just don't have the capacity for that in my life, and I think it would be crossing some boundaries. All right, I think that works.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
All right.
Sounds great. All right, moving on. How are you doing today, Harrison?
How am I doing today? I've been So I will keep saying this. I've been in a pretty good mood for the last several weeks. I've been on my sustainability arc. I've been really big on being kind to myself and to just making sure that making videos is something that I can do for not just now, but for a long time. That being said, I have some looming commitments that we will get into later that I don't think I'm super anxious about or super scared about, but they are the type of thing that is not as flexible, right? Basically, I mean, the TLDR is I have a sponsor thing coming up, which will give me a deadline. And I have a video that I'm working on where I will have to be pretty regimented about it. I won't be able to like take my time. There will be things where it's like, I have to do this every day in this way. Having for like the past month been extremely deadline-less and very flowy in how I've been working, I think I'm a little nervous going back to more structure. But I think I've picked a reasonable amount of stuff to do that's like within my capacity. So I think it'll be okay. And I'm like excited to work on this stuff that I have coming up. So I think it'll be good. I'm just like, you can't help but brace yourself, you know? I think once you start getting older and you've had enough experiences where you've maybe didn't work hard enough or push yourself too hard, you start to be like way more cognizant of how that might play out for you. And so you're like, gosh, I really just want to make sure that I'm like tuning this situation correctly so that I'm like writing the line right. So that's how I'm doing. How are you doing, Richard?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's starting to cool down a little bit where I am, which I'm grateful for, but I've been missing the sun. I recently moved somewhere a lot warmer than what I've been used to. And I feel like I'm just now starting to get adapted to the high heat. Like I've been running in it, etc. And now that it's getting cold, I'm like, wait, I just got used to this. What the heck?
Yeah.
That's okay. I have a big trip coming up soon too, which I'm super excited about. So things have just been moving along. Everything's good in my world.
Nice. All right. It's time to get into the meat of things, the agenda items. By the way, Rich, did you see the activity for today?
Did I see? Oh, yes. I'm very, very excited. This has been in the talk. We have been thinking about this for probably about a year now, maybe more.
Oh, you know, you say that and it sounds crazy, but it actually has been something we've been talking about doing for an extremely long time.
This is a good format for it because it's a really casual activity, so it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So you stay tuned, viewers or listeners. If you want to know what we're going to be doing, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes from now, something like that, you'll time keep.
Oh yeah.
But besides that, yeah, let's see. In any order, what do you want to talk about first? I'll just go down the list. So the first thing I wanted to do, and kind of ties into the introduction, is hey, so this podcast is a touch point from me to you, the audience, but let's reciprocate a little bit. I kind of want to know, like, if you're in my audience, what do you really like? What's something you're like passionate about? What are you really into? What kinds of skills or activities do you really value in your life? You should tell me about that in the comments because I want to know. I'm really curious. And if it's interesting, that's awesome. And I would like to hear. Also, if you are another creator, if you make YouTube videos or any kind of creation or creativity based thing, whether it's like professionally or as a hobby, you should reach out and say hi to me. And listen, I'm not saying we're going to work together, but I would like to just know what people are up to. And if there's people doing cool stuff, maybe at some point ambiguously, probably not, just to be perfectly transparent, but potentially there's something where we can, I don't know, chat. I'm just trying to, I'm trying to get to know people. I made a post recently on Twitter, a tweet on Twitter. I don't want to call it a post. Wait, does he actually call them X's?
Yeah, because it's not Twitter anymore, it's X, right?
Yeah, or are they posts? Whatever they are. Anyways, basically I said I'm looking for like a long-term collaborator. I was very vague about what that meant because I wanted to cast a wide net. If you think you might be that person, reach out. We might talk. We might work together. I need to stress this again. We probably won't. And that's not anything against you. It's just a numbers thing and a like things working out type of deal. Like I have limited time. I have limited ways to collaborate with people, but I would like to just know what people are up to. For something like that, more professional collaboration, you can message me on Twitter. Twitter is like LinkedIn for creators, in my opinion. So do that. And one last thing, and I'm going to say this one more time. The answer is probably no. But if you think you might be a good guest on the podcast, presumably because I either know you already or maybe I've heard of you, there's a good chance I've heard of you, you might be a good fit to just chat with, and maybe for me to pick your brain or for you to pick my brain. Just putting that out there. This is like the first episode. Because I don't know. Are there other people who are creators watching my stuff? Maybe, maybe not. I just need to find out. So yeah, that's the first thing. Anything else I want to say? Any other thoughts, Rich?
Harrison yells in the forest, hoping to hear what yells back is kind of what I take away from that.
Yeah. I'm like looking for echoes or whatever, however that analogy expands.
It probably should end there. Yeah. And also like we're fun, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's like
we're fun.
We're a chill podcast. We'll make it worth your time. We'll chat.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't.
All right.
There's not like if somebody came on, it would be because they like do something that I think is cool, really, and I like know them or whatever, or I've heard of them, and we would just chat. There's no, I don't know where this is going. Next thing. Which one do I want to pick? There's a couple things I want to talk about. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I got a new camera. If you're watching this, if you're a video viewer, which is how a lot of people are consuming podcasts nowadays, you are watching this on my new camera, which I am so excited about. I wrote down new camera, so sick, gonna learn so much, gonna make some weird shit.
New camera, yes.
Yes. My old camera is I'm still going to use it for some things. It's like 10 years old. It wasn't a fantastic camera when I got it. It's primarily for photography, not for video. And it just has so many things that make it frustrating to use. Like the autofocus is terrible, so you have to manually focus every shot. The image quality is really poor, especially in low light situations. And so you're really constrained by lighting. And I kind of like shooting low light shots, but it was really hard with that previous camera. I mean, I could go on and on, but this thing is so much better and nicer than my old camera. And I am so freaking excited to use it. What was I going to say? If I don't know. I'm so hyped about this thing. The day I got it, I just kept holding it and looking at it and being like, this thing's so fucking cool. I just want to use it. I haven't even gotten to use it that much. This is like the first time I'm using it for something real. But it's going to be pretty instrumental in some of my upcoming videos. So I'm really glad I got it now. Yeah, new camera, so cool. And one thing I do want to say is, how do I put this? Something I've learned having engaged in kind of a lot of hobbies over my life is that I think it's good to be frugal. It's good to try and work on a budget. But something that has definitely pretty much always been true, for me at least, is that if there's like a shiny thing that's more expensive that isn't like the cheapest possible option but gives you access to like the fuller suite of features, having that thing like in your hands, being able to mess around and play with it has always, in my experience, been the best way to really up your skill level. I think there's a lot of good that can come from really like squeezing a budget tool or device or whatever as far as you can go. But you definitely get a lot out of just having having all the options available to you. At least if you're the type of person who really likes to tinker and play around with things, not being constrained is extremely nice. And so even though I believe that to be true, I always struggle so much with buying more expensive things. This camera was not cheap. I mean, it is literally like the most expensive thing I have bought like in my life that I like didn't have to buy, like health insurance or whatever. And I say that, it makes it sound like it's crazy expensive. It's a Lumix S1, if you're curious, with a Sigma 24 millimeter to 70 millimeter lens. If you don't know anything about that, don't worry about it. You can look up the prices of that used. It's a lot, but it's not a lot as far as cameras go. I've been on this for too long. My point is just that sometimes you gotta spend to learn. Sometimes you just gotta spend to learn, and it kind of sucks that that's the way it is. But also be reassured that like if you're the type of person to make use of something, that money will not go to waste. That money will not go to waste. Yeah. Do you feel that way about Gundam, Richard?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy too, because we're humans and we have sunk cost fallacy.
That's true.
So even if like at first you buy, you have to have enough motivation to get over the initial hump and complexity of buying something that like has a big upfront commitment to learning it. But what's nice is that like because you've also invested that money, at least for people like me and like yourself, there's that bit that's like, no, like just keep sticking with it. Like you spent this much money on it, may as well just keep trying it out. And that definitely, and then that transitions into enjoyment for me, at least.
Yeah,
that helps me get past the initial learning stage.
That's true. There is the whole like money as a motivator thing, right? Like there's people who will buy expensive gym memberships because it makes them more likely to go to the gym, right? It's like I've spent the money on the thing, I might as well use this nice thing that I spent the money on, right? But then like
you have to have oh sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, but then if it like translates into a routine, you act like that compulsory enjoyment turns into just more like seamless like routine enjoyment. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, you have to have some initial passion, in my humble opinion, for it to like work, because you see so many people that have exercise bikes that just have like they're using them to hang up laundry and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's because a lot of people don't really like exercising, and they think if they just spend the money, it'll be enough. But you still need to have a little bit of passion or a little bit of enjoyment or discipline to get over that initial hump of making it part of your routine.
Yeah. Not everyone can be Northern Lion and hit the Peloton. Okay. Should we do the activity or should we do one more?
Yeah, now's the
activity time?
The perfect time for the activity.
All right, you guys. How do I explain this? Okay. If you're familiar with what a lot of people usually call like Australian licorice, it's kind of like the thick licorice. Here, I'll pull up a bag. You can buy it at Trader Joe's.
Soft chewing licorice is also another name.
Soft chewing licorice is another thing people say. It's the chunky small bits of licorice. If you're familiar with those, I love soft chewing licorice, but I especially love when it's gotten a little, what's the term? Dry aged. So you can open it fresh and it's soft and it's nice and tasty and chewy. But if you let it dry out for a little bit, it gets a little bit hard. The texture kind of changes, and it turns into what, Richard, you called licorice jerky. And I really like licorice jerky. The thing is I've always wondered, what is the optimal amount of time to dry age your licorice jerky for it to taste the best? And I thought about this for a long time, and I finally recently decided, okay, I'm going to conduct an experiment and I'm going to find out. And my plan was, I will take 3 packages of licorice and I will dry age them for 1 month, for 1 week, and for 1 day. And I'll have a spread of 3 different types. I did that, but then I did not do the taste test for like a week and a half, and we're doing it now. And so the 1 day old licorice, the 1 day old dry aged is actually closer to a week and a half. The 1 week is closer to 2 weeks, and Lord knows how long the 1 month has been drying. So it's a taste test, but it's a little bit cursed. So I took some photos. I'll put them on the screen. They audio listeners, they all look the same. I'm just gonna be straight up. You cannot tell visibly how they're different, but I cut them into smaller bits, and we're just gonna see how it goes. Starting with the quote unquote 1 day old licorice. Any thoughts before we get started, Rich?
No, I'm excited. My one thought is that one of the things that really does attract me and enhances my enjoyment of the licorice is the fact that it kind of feels like a forbidden snack. It looks like an eraser. It's like from middle school. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. So here's the 1 day, and to be clear, this is more like 1.5 weeks. I can tell it's hard, so I'm just gonna take. I've definitely had 1 week old licorice though, so this is not out of the ordinary. All right, okay. On chewing, yeah, okay. This is pretty good. It's hard, but not in any way that makes it difficult to eat. If you killed like a bag of this, maybe like a half a bag of this, your jaw might be a little bit sore because it's a chewer, but tastes great. Going for another bite. Yeah, very solid amount of chewiness. I know we don't have a true 1 day old bag, but I've done a lot of 1 day old bags in my time. 1 or 2 day old bags. And usually the licorice is still a little too soft for my taste. So this might be the sweet spot. I'm very curious where we go from there.
From here, yeah.
So let's escalate to the 1 week old bag, which is closer to two weeks. Okay. The licorice is a lot more dry. I mean, obviously, but like it feels kind of chalkier, you know what I mean? Like if you know anything about keyboards, it's like the difference between like an ABS keycap and a PBT keycap is how I could best describe it. I'm really curious how hard this is going to be. Oh, okay, pretty chewy. Honestly, okay, Okay. The initial bite was definitely harder. Oh, interesting. Okay. The initial bite was definitely harder. But once I got the first chew, the subsequent chews, when it was broken down, were pretty much the same as the first one. Like that inner layer is softer. The flavor has started to change. I liked the initial flavor a little bit more. It's a little bit sweeter almost. But there's a kind of aftertaste to it. It's not terrible, but it is a little bit unique. It tastes. I'm gonna go for another bite. Yeah, the initial flavor is pretty cool. I do like the initial flavor quite a bit. But what is this aftertaste? It just has it almost has like it's like 15% of a like sugar alternative aftertaste. So you know like what is it? Stevia? Something like that. It's almost like that. All right, hold on. Richard is having trouble joining the call. Hey, Rich, you back? You back?
Yep.
All right.
Sorry about that.
The last one, it has a little bit of an aftertaste. It's like a, what is it? Stevia? It tastes almost like a fraction of the aftertaste of like a sugar alternative, which is kind of weird. It's definitely, the flavor's changing. And let's get to the last one. This one, genuinely, this is the one I'm most scared of. And let me take a look, because I think the color actually has changed. You know what? I've already lost track. They look identical. Do they look different? I don't remember. I picked them up and I don't remember which one is which, but I have multiples, so we'll go with one directly from the bag again. This is the 1 month. I think it's closer to 1.5 months, maybe even 2 months, to be perfectly honest. This is the bag that started it all. Let's go in. Ooh. Super hard. Super chewy. Okay. I don't know what's going on at like a chemical level, but like something is happening to the sugar in this. It tastes fine. It definitely doesn't taste bad, but it tastes, I don't know how to describe it. It almost tastes like you would expect. Where you're like, okay, at this point, it's not dry-aged licorice as much as it is simply licorice that is on its way to, like, I don't know how long this is going to take to decompose, but it's made some progress.
Right, yeah. It started breaking down.
I would not recommend I would not recommend it. Honestly, I think, just off of this, I think probably the 1 to 2 week amount of aging is the sweet spot, if I had to guess. Somewhere between like 5 to 10 days. That's probably where you can get the most satisfying licorice jerky.
That's fair.
Yeah. So now we know. I don't know what I was expecting. Honestly, I will say I thought the 1 month old was going to be a lot harder than it was. It was definitely firmer, definitely tougher, but nowhere near inedible. I thought it was going to be like rock hard. So there you go, viewers. If you like soft chewing licorice, but you want it to be hard chewing licorice, I would recommend dry aging your bag. And what I really mean by this is letting it go stale for around 5 to 10 days. That's the Resprit recommendation.
5 to 10 days.
5 to 10 days. Great. Maybe we'll do this with other foods, maybe not. It definitely will not work with chips or anything that's not gummies.
No, because they don't gain a lot of benefit from drying out.
Yeah, it's really the texture change that you want. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Let's get back to the agenda items, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, I do want to talk about this. This is my this is this is going to be an upcoming video. I don't know exactly the order, but this will be a video that is going to be done in the near future. So, if you're listening to this, you may or may not know about the Donkey Kong Renaissance. The Donkey Kong Renaissance is a term that was coined by Wustoons, a fellow YouTuber, a homie. You should check out their stuff, which they used in a documentary they made about Donkey Kong's rise to prevalence in the modern era of competitive Super Smash Bros. Melee. Basically, we're starting to see Donkey Kong seeds being spread all over the world, and Donkey Kongs are getting better and better. Junebug, who is not a Donkey Kong exclusive player, but has been playing Donkey Kong exclusively a lot recently, was ranked, I believe it was 26th or 27th in the world as Donkey Kong. I think it's the character's highest placement in the history of the game. Donkey Kong's on the come up. And I've been seeing this, and I see the monkey, and he looks so fun and goofy and wacky, and I'm just like, man, I want to play Donkey Kong. I don't want to just play Donkey Kong. I want to play a lot of Donkey Kong. And so for months, I have been thinking, what is my excuse to play a lot of Donkey Kong? And a while back, a bit ago, I finally came to my answer, which is that I'm going to make a video in which I play like 1,000 games with Donkey Kong. There's going to be a little bit more to that, but I'm not going to share spoilers for now. And the timeline happens to work out that in almost exactly 50 days from now, I believe 51 days from today, when the podcast is being recorded, I will be attending the Melee, or just Smash in general, Super Major Tournament, basically one of the two largest tournaments of the year, the Big House, in exactly 50 days-ish. And so starting today, I will be playing at least 20 games of Donkey Kong every single day for 50 days straight. And on the 50th day, approximately, I will be in Detroit, Michigan, putting my skills to the test to see how far I've come. And I want to be very clear here. I checked the stats. In my 20,000 games of Melee I have on record, I have played 10 games with Donkey Kong. And I believe I've lost almost all of them. I have barely touched the character. And ever since I had the idea, I've been not letting myself play Donkey Kong because I want the experience to be as fresh as possible. I'm not super good at Melee. I'm slightly below average. So I'm very curious to see how far I can push this guy, but I am so excited to finally I've been teasing myself. I've been keeping myself away from the Kong, but I need him in my hands, and today I finally get to get started, and I get to document the whole thing. I'm so excited. So keep your eyes out. I will probably give some Donkey Kong updates on the podcast as things are going on. But I don't know. I feel like usually in my videos, I have some kind of conceptual idea behind them that I'm trying to communicate. I don't know what it is for this video, besides maybe just sometimes you need to indulge in fun or whatever. But that's a very retro active idea. Usually I have the concept beforehand, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to tell this story so I can communicate this idea. I just want to play Donkey Kong. I'm being straight up. I just want to play a ton of Donkey Kong and be able to justify it as work. So
I was going to say, is monkey not a good enough reason to make a video?
It is a good enough reason. I think I'm just so used to being especially when I was doing my PhD, when I was doing research, it's a good research paper is always supposed to change how you think about the world, right? It's supposed to introduce a new way of thinking into your life, regardless of what the actual experiment or system or whatever actually is. It's okay, you made this thing, but the real interesting thing about this thing that you made is not that it exists, but that its existence proves that you can do Y thing or think about this in Y way, right? And I try and think of that for my videos all the time. It's like the yo-yo video is a cool story about Hajime Miura, but the real point of the video is to convey to you how superficial like rules, guidelines, and scoring systems actually are when it comes to like self-expression and doing what I just call cool shit, right? Like the story I think is really cool, but I think it is cool for the exact specific conceptual reason, and that's like my true end goal for that video. And pretty much every video I put out has some level of this. This would be one of my first videos where I'm not thinking about that almost at all. it's just
I'm really excited to see how your approach changes based on because you don't have that going into, like it's going to be interesting to see how that ripples through and affects different aspects of your video.
Right. And I think I am still being true to myself in that like I have not been able to be indulgent in my silly side as much, especially with like the StarCraft video or like the things that people have seen the most. I think people assume that I am more serious of a person than I am. And I am a serious person, but it is in very specific ways, I think. And it is so far from my entire personality. So I think it will also just be a good outlet for me to do something that is very silly and ridiculous and fun.
I'm picturing the Nathan For You meme where it says, in reality, I'm actually very cool and relaxed.
Yeah, I promise. That's another reason for this podcast is that, I think unless, I don't know how to put this. I think unless you've seen everything I've put out in the past year, you don't even begin to have an understanding of who I am as a person. I don't want that to sound confrontational. I don't think people realize how all over the place I can be. I feel like I'm constantly, I used to say it more publicly, but I'm like, how do I warn the viewers that the next video is not at all what the last video is? But that is fun. I'm like, all right, they'll just figure it out, or they'll just watch one video and that'll be all they see. That's fine too. But yeah, super excited for the Donkey Kong video. So excited. Maybe one day we'll do a video where we make you play Melee, Richard. It would be kind of interesting to do like Melee for a non-Melee player and have you grind it out, but that's a huge commitment on your part.
True. Yeah, we can see. I need to bring my desktop computer to my new place, and then I'll be good to go.
Yeah, that's true. I had the idea for doing it with my girlfriend, but that felt mean. I don't know how to put it. Like you have a history of enjoying competitive games. And definitely. She less so, right? She plays a lot of games, but just not like a lot of competitive games. And I don't think forcing someone to play Melee is a very good experience. I think you have to really want it, I think you really have to want it for yourself. All right. Next agenda item. Let's do so many things to pick. All right. I'm going to pick this one. I'm going to read it verbatim because you suggested that last time, and it is kind of funny how I take notes.
All right.
Not to brag, in parentheses, brags, but I'm becoming a screen time superstar, in parentheses, for my hands, in parentheses again, also less social media, in parentheses again, social media isn't that bad, I think, but maybe not great. I don't know what it is, but I've just been able to start cutting down how much I'm using my phone by like dramatic degrees. I used to have like an average of like 4 to 5 hours a day that I would use my phone for. But in the past 2 weeks, it's been a lot closer to like 2 hours a day. And it's okay. Some people do need to be on their phone less. For me, I don't think 4 hours on my phone a day is untenable, but I have had like hand issues basically my entire life. You figure that out pretty fast when you become a gamer. So I've always been a little bit constrained in what I can do for games. But the number one thing that I have found that correlates with like hand ache the following day is how much time I spend on my phone. The more time I spend on my phone, the more my hands will hurt the next day. If they hurt at all. Like today, my hands feel great. My hands feel, when my hands feel good, I feel good because it means I have access to all of the little things that I like doing. When my hands hurt and I know I need to rest them, I'm like, oh, I can't play video games. I can't like use my phone. Or if I do, I'm like paying the price of like my hand health, and that feels bad. But when my hands feel good, I feel great. And cutting down the phone time has been amazing for my hands. Yeah, I don't know why I wanted to say this because it sounds like bragging, I feel. But yeah, what
no, it's awesome. No, what do you, so I find as someone that also has to like actively work to avoid like heavy phone usage.
Yeah.
I find it's very easy to just get sucked in for like 30, 45 minutes at a time. Like, do you only allow yours, like, what do you think has been responsible for the reduction and where has, like, in what apps have been, like, the biggest reduction?
That's a good question. So I think the tipping point for me, so it's a culmination of multiple factors. The tipping point for me was at first when Reddit made their API changes that didn't allow third-party apps, that basically, like, I just stopped using Reddit after that because I was like, okay, I don't think that me quitting Reddit actually changes anything. And I think Reddit is going to persist as a company. I don't think they were that harmed by like the protesting or whatever. But ideologically, and okay, I'm qualifying what I'm saying here because I think there are people who are just frankly annoying about this. But I do disagree with the direction that Reddit has been going over the past several years. And not to be a huge Reddit defender, but I think that if you know how to use Reddit in a way that is enjoyable to you, that is well curated, and it avoids the parts of Reddit that most people dislike, Reddit can be a great experience if you're only engaging in like specific parts of the website that you know to be good. And I think I had a pretty well curated Reddit experience, but I also felt like Reddit as a platform was pulling further and further away from the things that make Reddit tenable for me. So I cut out Reddit, fine. That saves like an hour or two out of my day, half of that being on my phone, which is the main way I browse Reddit. And then after Elon Xified Twitter, again, like, I don't know, everybody's talking about this. Everybody says the platform is getting worse. I have no love for Elon. I'm a longtime Elon hater, as you know, Richard. I don't know. He gave me bad vibes from the start.
Well before it was cool.
Yeah. I'm a hipster in that way. I've always been on the anti-Elon train. But listen, like when social media platforms and stuff change, I usually err on the side of like, okay, I'm going to see this out because people are usually very reactionary about change, right? They say, oh, it's terrible, it's awful, but then it ends up being okay. So I thought my Twitter experience was pretty well curated, like my Reddit experience. Twitter was mostly enjoyable for me to use. But post-X, like, Twitter legitimately sucks to use. When I go on Twitter, I often have an experience where I will see something and I'm like, man, fuck this. I don't want to see this. I don't want this to be a part of my life. It'll just be like a video of like somebody getting like beat up or like somebody like yelling at somebody. And like the page is like crazy vids. And like, I'm not subscribed to this. I don't want to see this. Or it's like somebody being like extremely mean or bigoted or rude or what, like the negativity bias has gone up tremendously on the platform. Because it's so algorithmically driven now, that Twitter has legitimately just become a really unenjoyable experience for me, to the point where putting down the app was not that hard, and I find myself very rarely returning to it. The main thing is, like I was saying earlier, Twitter is basically like creator LinkedIn. So it's a good way to like connect with people, message people and stuff. It's one of the easiest platforms for doing that. And so I feel like I have to check it every now and then. But like no Twitter, no Reddit basically leaves zero social media left for me. That's like the only thing I was doing still. And so with that, I'm just not using my phone to like check those websites anymore. And the other thing is that because I know I have hand issues, and because I know my phone, I'm assuming it's the repetitive motions really that's the killer. The phone is a little heavy. I think it's not great for the wrist, but the repetitive movements I think is the worst part. I feel like I'm paying like the blood price whenever I use my phone. You know what I mean? I can feel it. And not physically. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm aching, it hurts. But like in my soul, I'm like, this isn't good. My finger doesn't like this. I should cut it out. And so that always being on my mind really helps me not use it. It's kind of like I have a mouth guard because I gnaw my teeth in my sleep. And the thing that really got me to just make that a habit was every night before going to bed, the thought instantly enters my head. It's like, if you don't put on your mouth guard, you will do permanent, irreversible damage to your teeth. It will be minuscule, but it will add up over time. So just put on the mouth guard. and I just kept doing that until it became a habit. It actually is harder for me to sleep without it on because I can't get that thought out of my head. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, some people are more like stick approach and some people are carrot.
Yeah. It doesn't cause me true dread. It's just like, it's stick, but it is carrot because I do it out of a love for myself. You know what I mean? Not out of a fear of what can happen, but more that it's like, I deserve to treat my body properly. You know, but it is pretty stick. I can't get out of that.
Yeah, well, it's better to do a stick out of love than a stick out.
Yeah. So. And you know, it's funny because in all other facets of my life, I am extremely carrot. But when it comes to my health, I think the fear has to be the primary motivator for me to. It has to be like, I just don't want to have this experience.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of people are like that. I think they're maybe a topic for another day, but I do think it is really interesting that it seems like most health stuff is based out of fear rather than enjoyment. And maybe that's just because it kind of like moving your body when you have like a sit down job all day is like very much like a brutal transition.
Yeah. I do think we talked about this last week, but I do think the one health thing that has been very carrot for me is the running 3 times a week that I started doing like a month ago. That we said last week, I'll say it again. Your recommendation of just running at your own pace, which is something that's very unfamiliar to me as someone who used to be a competitive runner, is such a game changer of making running exactly as comfortable as you want it to be, and letting you reap all the benefits of, like, you know, feeling like that runner high at the end of the run, or maybe even during. But for me, I think a lot of the euphoria comes afterwards, but also just like the Zen meditation stuff. like just the feeling of being at peace because you're doing something so routine, so like, you know, you're just running along, doing. I like to do laps personally. I know some people get bored, but I love doing laps. Running feels really good. So I've been really enjoying that. And then I get to also get the perk of being like, ooh, my heart's better. My lungs are better now. Which has been awesome. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about running, you've been like kind of on the edge. You're like, oh man, I got to run. Run at your own pace. And that means if you got to walk, if you got to stop completely, just stop. But just commit to it and do it exactly as comfortable as you want it to be. It has been very, very rewarding. I'm a big fan.
It's so much better to like walk / jog a mile than not do it at all, you know?
Yeah.
Anything's better than 0.
Yeah. And there's been a few days where I was like, you know what? I just only want to walk today. So I'll just walk. I'm just going to walk for 45 minutes, 1 hour straight. Only going to walk because that's all I'm feeling like. But it still gets the job done, Oh, really enjoying the running right now. Another thing I'm enjoying, another agenda item. Okay. I saw a video in my YouTube recommendations from the YouTuber Gabby Bell. I believe that's her name. I've watched a few of her videos. I have no qualms with her at all. She's like a commentary YouTuber. I didn't actually watch the video, so I might be totally off base here. But the title of the video was like, why does everyone have a podcast now? And I think the sentiment has been around for the last like 5-ish years, People have been like, oh, all these dudes are just trying to start podcasts. All these content creators are lazy. They're just trying to like pump out content for podcasts. Having started doing a podcast with you, Richard, for the last couple of weeks, I think the reason people like doing podcasts, I think the reason why everybody has a podcast is because podcasting is just fun. It is probably, if you have like a podcast and you're like output rotation of like what you're making like every week, I have to imagine for a lot of creators, the podcast part usually is the part that feels the least like work, right? At least for me so far, that's been the case. And I just want to, in defense of people making podcasts, and maybe it's cope because we're doing it, but it's fun. And I think it's perfectly fine for people to do things because they think it's fun, I don't even care how many people watch this. I just like making it. I just like having a conversation each week.
Yeah, I leave after, since this is technically our third, I've left every single one of them feeling like I just had like a really good catch up or a really good phone call with someone.
Yeah.
There's just something about it that just like scratches a really nice itch that like makes me feel a little bit more fulfilled in my life.
Yeah. It's like a chat that you have to be on for, but like once you're vibing, it doesn't feel like you have to work to be on. You know what I mean? You're just
it's a perfect flow state.
It is probably especially like if you're somebody who makes YouTube videos, you probably fucking love talking. I know I love talking. And so this is like the most natural outlet for me that I could do. And so it's like the perfect flow state for a lot of people. So, if you see someone with a podcast, live and let live, I guess. I don't know.
You don't have to listen.
Yeah. I guess there's another dimension, which is like the like clip farming and stuff of podcasts and like the weird like maximalist like 12 guests on a podcast type of thing, and all the like grind set and alpha male, sigma male things. Maybe that's what the video is about. I don't even know. But hey, if it's just some guy or some girl, they're just talking by themselves or with another person, I think they just want to have fun. I think they're just in it. I think they're just in it for the vibes.
Let them cast.
Yeah, let them cast. What's the time, Rich? How are we doing on the time?
I think we're about ready to wrap it up. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
At 50-ish minutes.
Yeah. We should wrap. All right. 2 more things before we go. I just want to say, there is a class of person who watches my videos, usually the type of person who will send me like a nice paragraph and I say thank you and they never respond to me ever again. I love those interactions. There's just people who they see what I'm making, they see like the constellation of it all, and the way they communicate to me makes it clear that they get it. There's like, I'm not saying most people don't get it, but like, I think there's a certain type of person who sees everything I do and they get it. And I just want to say shout outs to the people who get it. And it's fine if you don't. And I don't even know exactly what I mean when I'm saying this, but I just feel like some people get it, and you know who you are. Shout outs to you if you get it. That's the penultimate thing. The last thing before we sign off. You, whoever you are, you're doing fine. You're doing more than fine. You're doing great, and it'll be okay. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Interpret that as you will, but I do genuinely, sincerely believe that you're doing great. You'll be okay. All right. That's all. Goodbye now. Thanks for listening to the Lil RES podcast. Did you cut out? You cut out for me, Rich.
Peace.
Get your goodbye. You can get your goodbye no in.
All right. Goodbye no.
Goodbye no. Maybe you said it earlier. I didn't hear it. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.